So when we're experiencing very strong emotions like anger, grief, or anxiety, whatever strong might feel like for you, I think we often have a tendency to think there's only two choices available to us. Either we're going to feel those feelings and get stuck there and then not be able to function, or we just need to stick all those feelings in a box, like clamp it down really hard and just get on with doing things, with being helpful without letting your emotions kind of fuel you. And I think, well, in my experience, neither of these options particularly work very well for me in the moment. I've got a bit of a tendency to just think, well, I just need to get on with things, yeah. And what that risks, and maybe you've experienced this too, is that actually those emotions do catch up with me in one form or another. Often they'll start seeping out to the side in spaces that feel a bit more safe. So it might be snappy or distant with my partner, for example. Or at some point, they might actually just start kind of boiling over, say, if it's anger, or affecting me in different ways. Like after my dad died last year, I went and led a workshop not that long after, and someone very understandably gave me some constructive feedback just in writing afterwards. Well, it was a very short sentence that said, "Woolly without clear takeaways," and I completely agreed with the person. You know, it's just I was grieving, but I was also emotionally exhausted, yeah, and I'd kind of taken that approach of like, well, I can just keep doing things. So I've done really hard things for months now and led my dad's funeral and all sorts of stuff like that. I just kept kind of pushing on, and of course, actually, it wasn't serving me well, and it also wasn't serving other people well, more importantly, either. So I think a lot of us realise at some point that it doesn't really work, but we don't really know what else to do. So what I'm really interested in with the feel part of the feel, think, communicate model I'm talking to you about here in these videos is how we can, I'm going to use slightly more poetic language, but kind of like drop into our emotions, which really means actually it's not even poetic, it is kind of pointing towards what we need to do. It means getting out of our head and actually into our bodies, feeling the sensations of our bodies instead of just treating ourselves like a head on a stick. Finding a way to almost like digest them, which for me means kind of relaxing in my belly. When I'm tense, because I've got a lot of feelings going on in my body, I tense my stomach, and I actually often give myself a flare up of IBS symptoms. So you tense up here, and it can all come up all the way into the central channel, actually up into our throat. But if we become aware of it, it's often rooted down in the belly, often even in the pelvis and the groin area too. So I think there is something around letting the belly loosen so you can literally digest better, but your emotions seem to kind of digest, if we want to use that language too, when the belly is loose. So yeah, there's a number of methods, I think, to allowing feelings to move through you and move you and fuel you in your work. So they're not just something that we have to like get through because they're inconvenient. In my experience, anger, anxiety, grief, it points to something really important that we value, something that we're trying to articulate, something that we'd like to be different in our lives or the world around us. So it's almost like we drop down from, I'm going to use probably a load of different metaphors in this, it's almost like the emotions can feel like this kind of like choppy surface, yeah, water, and we're trying to drop beneath that to something that's more kind of still. And the image I've had today actually is, I'm going to see if I can draw it. Yeah, so initially I wanted to draw this image, yeah. It's almost like we're here on the surface of our experience. We're going to drop down into our feelings, find out, it's almost like there's a little treasure trove down here, yeah, and then kind of come up the other out into the other side. But the image I had actually is almost that like, maybe it's there, I'll work this out a bit later. It's almost like, you know, on those video games where someone goes down, sort of like dives down into some water, picks something up, and then kind of comes up out of the water and goes out the other side. It's a bit like that, but imagine that there's almost like a kind of a portal or a doorway. I like portal at the moment. I like the phrase portals to power. Sounds good to me. But almost like this sort of portal that When you've got that treasure, you sort of come back up and you're coming out into a different world. And that is almost what I feel like. I feel like I am changed, and the world almost feels changed, or my perspective at least on it feels changed, when I can gain kind of like clarity through diving more deeply into my emotions without getting stuck there. And then that often fuels a whole load of work that comes after that. Yeah. And sometimes we'll have pivotal moments in our lives when, if we have the right kind of tools and space, we can access that, and it can really fuel us for ages actually afterwards. Yeah. It's often when something really bad happens, yeah, really painful happens to us or in the world around us. So I think for a lot of people it might be that Jason Arday's death provides like one of those moments, yeah, when you just kind of wake up more to the world that we're in, and like we need to change how we are together. So yeah, if you feel like this is a moment in which you want to kind of like galvanize and harness more energy and speak more clearly and persuasively in a way that's sustainable, then I'm hoping this is going to be useful for you. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. I like the diving metaphor. Sometimes I like to use a forest, but we'll use the diving one today. So, feeling our feelings. There is an element of this that is just about just noticing what's happening in the body. And so basic mindfulness practices, yeah, will be helpful. So it might be that there's like mindfulness meditation, breathing practices that you find useful. I've got a few in another playlist that's on YouTube called Less Stress, More Impact. There's a few at the beginning that I think like day 1 and day 2, they're just like slower breathing practices, yeah, that will really help you regulate your nervous system, because that is an important part of this. Yeah, there's a difference between just pushing your feelings down and sticking a lid on them, and actually being aware of them and still being able to regulate your nervous system so you're not getting kind of caught up. So we're going to be talking about some of these emotions, these methods in a moment. What I did want to say actually before I went on to them, which I just forgot, was that if at any point in this you feel like overwhelmed, or you don't feel like you're in a good headspace for this, and it's really important that you go and get the appropriate level of support. Yeah, that could be just having a chat to a friend, it could be reaching out to me, it could be you know, if you feel like you're really low and you're engaging with this stuff right now, it might be going and talking to a doctor, or even like talking to something like the Samaritans, yeah, depending on what you feel is needed. Yeah, so I'm really trusting you that you're engaging with this in a way that will be useful for you. And if it's not, yeah, sometimes what we need to do, maybe I'll talk about this in a moment actually, is we just need to bolster ourselves with more positive emotion. Yeah, the only reason I feel like I can engage with what's going on in the world right now around Jason Arday is because I've now come out of a very intensive period of grief that I was in. There was some stuff that happened before my dad's death that I found really difficult, some personal life stuff going on. Then there was my dad getting diagnosed with cancer. He spiraled very quickly, he died. I got a puppy a few months later. I've just been like growing a 1-year-old spaniel. Like I had a quite difficult low mental states in over winter this year. So I'm only kind of coming into a space now where I feel like really well resourced. But might be times when actually you're like, do you know what? I'm having a look at this stuff. And as much as I really care about this, I'm just not in the right place. I'm not internally or externally resourced enough to engage more with this. And it's just going to throw me completely off balance, and I'm not going to be helpful for myself and others. I really understand that, yeah. I will give a link to a guide called Your Wellbeing Warning System, and below, yeah, and just for you to work out whether you're at green, amber or red, and that will help you decide whether this is like appropriate, because I definitely think if you're going into amber or red territory for you, and like for me, like red territory was like being very isolated, panic attacks, all that kind of stuff, then yeah, there's different things that we need to do. And it doesn't mean that you don't care, yeah, it just means that you're being sensible and you're just attending to the stuff that needs to be attended to right now. So yeah, it might be sometimes that you're feeling a bit low or wobbly, like that's okay. Actually feel robust enough to work with those emotions. Yeah, it's not like we want to avoid them entirely. And maybe some of those there's a few meditation practices in that Less Stress, More Impact series that are about like cultivating joy, for example. So it might be that those are helpful, kind of enough to keep you buoyant. So yes, I feel like any of this work around deeper emotional stuff needs to come with like public health warning, because when I first learned to meditate, my experience was not feeling blissfully calm. It was realizing, oh my gosh, I'm incredibly anxious. I was 21, and that is when I first had my the first round of panic attacks I'd ever had. Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to be overly cautious with you. I don't want to get you worried. We just need to be kind of sensible, yeah. And because I'm doing this on the internet, it's not like a class or a course where I know you and we're working together and I can help you work out what's going on. So, methods, as I said, for processing your emotions. Music was my number one thing on here. I feel like music helped me so much through my dad's death and the grief afterwards. When I was feeling numb, sometimes I did need to listen, for example, to sad songs, or if I was angry, I needed to listen to angry songs, because it felt like sometimes like, I was going to say emotionally constipated, but that was my experience. It was like I felt something, but I couldn't like locate it yet to move it through. And it used to be helpful for me to listen to some music that was of that emotional flavour, and then movement would be the other thing. That's the other thing, so music and movement. So I might move around or dance or like shake or whatever it is to kind of feel the feelings, yeah. And that would be quite useful because it's also kind of time bound. So if we're going to be doing this, yeah, coming in and out, it means that we do need to kind of create some kind of like boundaries around going into this stuff and coming out. I believe the word for it is titration, actually. We need to have confidence that we're not going to get stuck there. The great thing about music is you could listen to a couple of songs that are either really sad or really angry, whatever it is that you're feeling, and then afterwards you can listen to some other music that's actually happy and joyous and, you know, kind of creates that emotional and buoyancy that I was just talking about, and that will help you move out of it as well. What you don't want to do, this is a mistake that I made when I was younger, in my early 20s, is just spend a whole day just listening to really depressing or angry music. Well, it certainly isn't what worked for me. It might work for you. I just used to find I would kind of spiral then. Like Lana Del Rey was my one for that. It was just like, just get into this place, which was not helpful for me. So yeah, think about how you can move through and up and out of it. I think I've got a playlist called Feral, which is helpful for that. So just comment Feral below if you want me to send it to you on Spotify. It's got a whole range of stuff. This was when I was doing something more specific around women and accessing your emotions, but I'm sure it'd be helpful for other people too. The piece of music that I was listening to between my dad's death and leading his funeral, which was really helpful, was Spring One by Max Richter. It's a remastering, whatever you want to call it, of Vivaldi, and I love it. I think it is poignant and heartbreaking and joyful. And oh god, I get emotional just talking about it. I had it in like one ear, my right ear, in the limo to like my dad's funeral. Like we were in, you know, following the hearse, and I was having to prepare myself to go in because I'd written his eulogy and I was going to lead the whole funeral. I had to prepare myself to go and walk in front of like 140 people, like leading his coffin in. So I was like, I need to be like rooted in something beautiful and true about the world. And that piece of music was it for me. I think if you're particularly working around the death of someone, and you know, I'm recording these when I'm very much bearing Jason Arde in mind. One of the things, so much I could say about that piece of music, but it bursts in. Yeah, the music bursts in. It's like this like bird song and life coming into being. And with my dad, it really felt like, oh, that is like the human life, like coming in, yeah, bursting into the world and developing so quickly as, well, even just from conception, but as we're babies, you know, so much is like growing and developing. There's this kind of like whirlwind of life, and it kind of develops and moves and echoes. Oh, it's just gorgeous. And this is kind of like I don't know if crescendo is the right word because I don't really study music, but anyway, there's this like this movement of life that feels like so full and rich, and then in the end it just like wraps up like almost as like quickly as it like burst into being. And it felt like that communicated so much to me about the fleeting beauty of human life, that like just as quickly as we come into being we're gone. Yeah. And it's beautiful. Oh yeah, I'm going. I really don't want to end up being like performative in these sessions, but I also don't want to like pretend I'm not having feelings. Oh, so it's like the situation with Jason in the end was so ugly, but his life, the little that I know about it, because obviously I don't know him, the little I've read about it was extraordinary actually. And even if he hadn't achieved everything that he did, like it was still a beautiful life. Yeah, you didn't need to be a professor at Cambridge. Everyone won't care. Imagine if you're here, you're not having a debate about him. But like even without everything, and the people that he knew, and you know his place in Cambridge, it was still a beautiful life. Yeah, life is a beautiful thing. It sounds like he was a beautiful person, and life in itself is beautiful. And that I think is why Spring One just like it feels so important to me around death, is because it speaks to that without kind of like trivializing it or anything like that. It's like there's the coming into being, there's the fullness of it, life expressed, and then there's its ending, and it's gloriously heartbreaking. Let me pull myself together. So I will link to Spring One below as well, and see if you find that a moving piece of music. But maybe there's something else that you want to listen to. And I often find when I'm listening to that, I'm often doing this with my chest, like that seems to help move something around. But yeah, as you can see, like listen to music that moves you, that moves your emotions through. Like I was just moved then, wasn't I, talking about it? And express your feelings, just like I'm expressing my feelings here. This feels like an okay context given what I talk about on this channel. It might not make sense for you in your situation to do a YouTube video. Like I'm a coach around speaking and communication and leadership, yeah, so it makes sense that I've got like a YouTube video in this context. But like how else can you express yourself? And it might be that you just want to do that in an introverted way, which could be like writing. You might want to write anything. If you're more on the angry side, like rage writing, great, yeah? Like put a timer on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just write every angry thought down that you want. You can swear as much as you like. It's not about being truthful or helpful or anything like that. It's just like you just get it all down, you get it out your system, you let that angry side of you speak. Now, I personally love going and burning the writing afterwards. If you can do that in a way that's safe and legal. I'm in the New Forest, so I'm not burning anything at the moment. Then you can do that. There's something like the fire and the burning up of rage, I think is very, very helpful, because it's like a hot emotion, isn't it? Like when I experience anger, I feel hot in the body. There's something about the fire, I think, that can be really helpful. My Buddhist order, we often do lots of rituals around letting go and fire. There is a brilliant book by Desmond Tutu and his daughter called The Book of Forgiving, or The Book of Forgiveness. And the first section is, there's 4 parts. I think it's tell your story, then name the hurt. Tell your story and name the hurt. Name the hurt, I'd say more comes into think, but you could do that as well. But the tell your story bit is really important, I think, comes into this feel section, which is just getting out what's happened, yeah, and how you feel about it in this kind of messy kind of way. So you could get that book. There's I've got like the online version of it too. Found that really helpful. You might find that just talking to someone who you trust and just being able to have a few minutes just to fully express yourself, yeah, and it might be that you want them to help you clarify what you think or draw you out, but sometimes you just need to spiel it out. So there's often 2 types of people, aren't there? There's people who will just kind of emotion dump on you, yeah? And there's other people who really don't want to be that person. And so you're very cautious about saying anything at all because you don't want to take up space or bring anyone down or anything like that. It's so important, if you fall into that camp, that you have a place to express yourself and not feel like you are just being messy or difficult or demanding or anything like that. Yeah. And you can get permission from that person. You can ask them like how many minutes they'd be comfortable with. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10. Get clear on the boundaries around that. And if they've agreed to it very willingly, like I do that with my clients, I just get them to like mind dump or spiel out stuff on paper, or we do it in a call. You know, I think it's just very good to, you know, to just get that all out. So I've just seen that my storage is low, so I'm going to need to wrap this one up soon. So yeah, just some way of getting the words out without it needing to be neat or what you would say to like anyone that you actually want to communicate with to be more helpful. It's just getting the raw material out there because they'll point to something that's helpful. Finding poetry can also work, and meditation can. Sometimes people find that your emotions are just too strong, so maybe actually meditation might not work for you, but I've got some meditations, as I said, in this Less Stress, More Impact series. You might find that helpful. Just anything really that just gets you moving. So running, walking, playing, singing. Yeah, you just want to have some kind of energy moving around and finding space to just articulate some of the messiness as well that's underneath there. So there we go. That's the feel section. Drop over to think, and I will see you there.